wird mancher Ukraine sein, der es mir nicht verzeihen kann, dass ich die marxistischen Parteien vernichtete. Aber mein Freund, ich habe die anderen genauso vernichtet. Sie sind
There are speeches that mark a before and after in history. Not only what and who are important, but fundamentally how. The voices of the main Nazi leaders have been a clear example of spectacular and sinister oratory. Why were they so captivating and charismatic? What elements made them so effective in speeches and political gatherings? In today's video, we will explore how these voices resonated and what characteristics they possess that captivated the German people and twisted the fate of much of Europe, causing the genocide of millions of people. Get ready for a fascinating and enlightening listen to the power of words in the darkest period of the 20th century. Let's begin. Adolf Hitler, a man who rose like a colossus crushing the bones of the Jews he murdered, was born in Braunau am Inn, Austria, in 1889. His ascent to power as the leader of the Nazi Party in Germany marked the beginning of an era of terror and destruction that shook the entire world. From his wandering youth to his role as Chancellor of Germany, an undisputed leader of the Third Reich, he left a trail of devastation and tragedy in his wake. But beyond his political and military actions, his voice was one of his most powerful instruments, one that he knew how to captivate and manipulate the masses with. With his energetic and passionate tone, the Führer was able to hypnotize his followers and drag them into an abyss of fanaticism and hatred. Since his early political speeches in the 1920s, he demonstrated an innate talent for oratory and persuasion. In these speeches, which addressed topics such as racial superiority, the need for living space for the German people, and the demonization of Jews, Hitler began to gain followers and form a base of fervent support. One of his most famous speeches took place on January 30th, 1933, when he was appointed Chancellor of his country. There, he proclaimed the beginning of a new era for Germany and promised to restore its lost greatness. This event catapulted the Nazi Party to power and marked the beginning of a totalitarian dictatorship. Another of the Führer's most famous speeches took place on September 1st, 1939, when he announced the invasion of Poland, thus triggering the start of World War II. There, he justified the invasion as a defensive measure to protect Germany from alleged external threats, defending territorial expansion and the supremacy of the Aryan race. Throughout the war, Hitler continued to deliver speeches aimed at maintaining the morale of the German people and justifying the actions of the Nazi regime. However, as the war turned against him, his speeches became increasingly delusional and full of empty promises. Let's listen to one of his fiery rhetoric.
Ich bin aus euch selbst herausgewachsen, bin einst selbst unter euch gestanden, bin in 4,5 Jahren Krieg wieder mitten unter euch gewesen und habe mich dann durch Fleiß, durch Lernen und ich kann sagen durch Hungern langsam emporgearbeitet. In meinem innersten Wesen bin ich immer das geblieben, was ich vorher war.
In the excerpt you just heard, you can observe Hitler with a calm, almost fraternal tone of unity with his people, guiding through his words to make his audience understand that he is one of them, an ordinary citizen. However, as his speech progresses and he begins to talk about the Jewish population, his tone hardens and becomes increasingly aggressive. This is a demonstration of how this snake charmer delved into the psyche of the Germans and aroused the most entrenched anti-Semitic hatreds.
Es ist eine kleine, wurzellose, internationale Clique, die die Völker gegeneinander hetzt, die nicht will, dass sie zur Ruhe kommen. Es sind das die Menschen, die überall und nirgends zu Hause sind, die nirgends einen Boden haben, auf dem sie gewachsen sind, sondern die heute in Berlin leben, morgen genauso gut in Brüssel sein können, übermorgen in Paris oder mit in Prag oder in Wien oder in London und die sich überall zu Hause fühlen.
What characteristics did his voice have? It was deep and penetrating, with a rhythm that fluctuated between serenity and fury. His ability to convey emotion and conviction was undeniable, making him a formidable speaker capable of influencing the minds and hearts of Germans. Additionally, he was a very charismatic person who generated admiration for his determination and fervor. Fueled by his radical ideology and desire for absolute power, his magnetic personality, embodied in that powerful voice, managed to convince the undecided of the atrocities that the Reich wanted to carry out. Through his ability to mobilize people and convey his worldview, the Führer established himself as a dictator with popular support. But he was not the only Nazi leader skilled in seducing with his oratory. One man stood out as the architect of propaganda and manipulation in the Third Reich, Joseph Goebbels. He was born in 1897 in Reich, Germany, and joined the Nazi Party in its early stages. With his oratory skills, he quickly rose through the ranks of the party's structure and became Adolf Hitler's Minister of Propaganda in 1933. Throughout his tenure, he used the media to spread the party's ideology and keep the German population under his influence. His speeches, carefully designed to appeal to people's emotions and prejudices, were a powerful weapon in his manipulation arsenal. Let's see his tactics in action.
Seid ihr bereit, mit dem Führer als Phalanx der Heimat hinter der kämpfenden Wehrmacht stehen, diesen Kampf mit wilder Entschlossenheit und unbeirrt durch alle Schicksalsfügungen fortzusetzen, bis der Sieg in unseren Händen ist. Ich frage euch, seid ihr entschlossen, dem Führer in der Erkämpfung des Sieges durch dick und dünn und unter Aufnahme auf der schwersten persönlichen Belastungen zu folgen?
Goebbels' voice was deep and persuasive. His ability to convey his ideas with clarity and conviction was impressive, making him a formidable speaker capable of captivating audiences and winning their loyalty. Through his skill at manipulating the truth and distorting authentic facts, he became one of the masters of 20th century propaganda. For many, his charisma was rooted in his ability to connect with the masses and exploit their fears and racism. Due to his physical insecurity, stemming from his small stature and distance from the Nazi Aryan ideal, Goebbels desperately tried to stand out with his voice. He shouted excessively and made himself heard by forcing a strength and demeanor he lacked. His talent for doing so cannot be denied, as he became one of the most influential and distinguished men of the Reich. Throughout his tenure, he delivered a series of speeches designed to glorify his Führer and promote Aryan racial superiority. In his lectures, Goebbels demonized Jews and other groups considered enemies of the state, fostering hatred and intolerance among the German population. One of his most notable speeches took place on May 10, 1933, when he led the book Burning in Germany, censoring works considered contrary to Nazi ideology. But the most impactful of his public interventions occurred on January 30, 1943, at the Berlin Sportpalast, where he urged the German people to total war against the Allies. There, he used inflammatory rhetoric to exalt the sacrifice and bravery of the German inhabitants, urging them to defend the homeland to the last breath. Hermann Wilhelm Goring was born on January 12, 1893, in Rosenheim, Germany. He participated in World War I as a combat pilot where he gained recognition for his bravery and strategic skills. However, it was during the rise of Nazism that he reached the peak of his power. By joining the party in 1922, he quickly became a close confidant to Adolf Hitler. For this reason, he played a crucial role in the failed coup known as the Munich Putsch in 1923, which aimed to overthrow the government and install the Führer as dictator. In 1933, at the height of the Reich, Goering was appointed Minister of the Interior of Prussia and later became the second in command of the government as Supreme Commander of the Luftwaffe. His speeches, delivered with a deep and authoritative voice, had a lasting impact on his audiences. He was one of the serious and sober faces of the Reich, which made his public interventions essential for the more moderate followers of the regime. One of Goering's most notable speeches took place in the Reichstag in 1936, where he defended Germany's rearmament policy and justified the country's territorial expansion. In it, he demonstrated his ability to shape the perception of his audience, painting a glorious portrait of Nazi Germany and its goals. In this proclamation, he emphasized the need for a strong military and the restoration of national pride, winning the applause and support of the audience. But listen to him trying to use his talent to gain some benefit during the Nuremberg trials.
Ich habe alles getan, die durch Verhandlungen zu vermeiden. Als ausgebrochen, durch Kriege zu unterjochen, zu morden, zu rauben.
What you just heard is a Goering almost completely defeated. His vehemence and distinction in oratory are overshadowed by the terror of knowing that he would likely be condemned to death. One of the most abominable figures of the Third Reich was, without a doubt, Heinrich Himmler, a figure whose name has become synonymous with horror. Born in Munich, he joined the party in 1923 and quickly rose through the ranks due to his fanatical loyalty. In 1929, Hitler appointed him head of the Schutzstaffel, known as the SS, the feared paramilitary unit responsible for concentration camps and the implementation of Nazi racial policy. In addition to promoting genocide, he also delivered speeches to exalt Aryan racial superiority and foster nationalist fervor among Germans. Himmler stood out for his calm and serene voice, somewhat sharp but authoritative in tone. Furthermore, he used carefully crafted language to justify the atrocities committed in the name of the regime. One of his most notable speeches took place on October 4, 1943 in Posen, Poland, where he delivered his infamous speech on the final solution. He explicitly justified the mass murder of European Jews, outlining the cruel methods and magnitude of the barbarism perpetrated by the Nazi government. Both audio recordings and documents approved by the Führer were used as evidence during the Nuremberg trials, underscoring the brutality and depravity of the crimes committed under the regime. Listen to the chilling archival material.
Ich will auch ein ganz schweres Kapitel nennen. Ich meine die Ausrottung des jüdischen Volkes. Es gehört zu den Dingen, die man leicht ausspricht. Das jüdische Volk wird ausgerottet. Das war Ihnen jede Parteigenosse. Ganz klar steht in unserem Programm drin, Ausschaltung der Juden, Ausrottung machen wir, Kleinigkeit. Von euch werden die meisten wissen, was es heißt, wenn 100 Leichen beisammen liegen. Wenn 500 da liegen oder wenn 1000 da liegen. Und dies durchgehalten zu haben und dabei anständig geblieben zu sein, ist ein niemals genanntes und niemals zu nennendes Ruhmesblatt.
The calm and tranquil tone perceived in these recordings only serves to generate spasms of terror. A man who speaks casually about the extermination of 6 million people is a dark figure in history and a character to be feared. The personality of the Reich we will discuss next was equally chilling. In the shadowy setting of the Third Reich, Reinhard Heydrich emerges as a central figure, whose influence on the Nazi regime is as profound as it is unsettling. This opaque character was born on March 7, 1904, in Halle, Germany. From an early age, he demonstrated a sharp mind and a fierce ambition that would propel him to great heights of power within the Nazi Party. His entry into the ranks of the SS in 1931 marked the beginning of a meteoric career in the world of espionage and repression of enemies of the state. He was one of the masterminds behind the design of concentration camps and systematic genocide, so the horrors of the Holocaust bear his indelible signature. Heydrich's voice was characterized by its firm and authoritative tone, capable of hypnotizing his listeners and persuading them of his ideas. There was something distinctly militaristic about his oratory, unlike other Nazi hierarchs. His interventions, carefully crafted and delivered with an icy calmness, functioned as a voice of authority in moments of disorder, both within and outside the government. One of Heydrich's most impactful speeches took place at the Wannsee Conference on January 20, 1942, where he outlined the plans for the final solution. He explained in detail how the planned extermination of millions of individuals considered racial scum would be carried out. With an imperturbable voice, Heydrich coldly detailed the methods and procedures to carry out this atrocity in the most efficient and fastest way possible. Listen to his speech at a political meeting, where he illustrates the direction of Europe under the Nazi yoke.
Großdeutschland und Italien bilden Kern und Fundament des europäischen Wiederaufbaus. Lebensgebiet für Lebensgebiet wird als Pfeiler des Ganzen für sich neu gestaltet und geformt.
Even though his tone was calm, this individual aroused the same feelings of anti-Semitic hatred as all his colleagues in the Third Reich. Let's listen to another Nazi speaker with similar characteristics.
Am 6. April 1941
Erwin Johannes Eugen Rommel was born on November 15, 1891, in Heidenheim an der Brenz, Germany, and stood out as a legendary figure, known both for his military brilliance and his undisputed charisma. From his youth, he demonstrated exceptional talent for leadership and military strategy, qualities that would make him one of the most respected and feared commanders of World War II. Additionally, he was known for his magnetism and personal charm. His affable character and ability to connect with people made him a popular figure among his subordinates and a leader admired by his countrymen. Let's see how in his rhetoric he tries to generate empathy by putting himself on the same level as his soldiers.
Es ist mir dieser Entschluss bitter schwer gefallen, Tobruk freizugeben, dass wir nun über ein halbes Jahr belagert hatten und vor dem Feind zu weichen. Und man macht sich keinen Begriff von den Schwierigkeiten, die ich damals hatte, schon deshalb, weil ein großer Teil meiner Truppen gar nicht motiviert.
Rommel's voice was characterized by its deep tone, capable of inspiring confidence and motivating his troops in the most difficult moments. His speeches, delivered with palpable passion and undeniable authority, resonated among his followers and spurred them to fight with courage and determination on the battlefield. Among his most notable interventions, one can find the one that took place on June 6, 1944, shortly before the Normandy landings. On this occasion, he addressed his militias with words of encouragement and passion, urging them to face the challenge with courage. The ability to instill courage and optimism in his men was crucial to maintaining high morale in critical moments, especially towards the end of the war, when circumstances began to darken for the Reich. Now let's move on to the last of the voice analyses in this video.
Auf Juden damals damals nur jene Obliegenheiten zu erfüllen, die mit der Auswanderung zusammenhingen. Deswegen heißt die Bezeichnung des Referates auch Auswanderung.
Adolf Eichmann is one of the darkest and least known figures in world history. His name is intimately linked to the Holocaust, being one of the masterminds alongside Himmler and Heydrich. Born on March 19, 1906, in Solingen, Germany, he joined the Nazi Party at a very early age, in 1932. His influence in the ranks of the political armed forces was truly remarkable. His rise was due to his efficiency in logistics and organizing any action that Hitler wanted to carry out. Eichmann quickly became one of the chief architects of the Holocaust, responsible for the planning and coordination of the deportation and extermination of millions of Jews during World War II. His voice was described as calm and calculated, with a persuasive tone that conveyed an apparent rationality to his inhuman actions. His speeches were designed to justify the Nazi regime's anti-Semitic policies and gain support from his followers. Although not known for his charisma, his ability to manipulate the emotions and beliefs of those who listened to him made him an effective speaker in Nazi circles. Among his most infamous speeches is the one given on January 20, 1942, during the Wannsee Conference. In it, he advocated for the final solution to the Jewish problem and promoted the idea of Aryan superiority. He used dehumanizing language to refer to Jews, portraying them as a threat to racial purity and state security. Eichmann advocated for the mass deportation and systematic extermination of enemies of the state. Although his words were filled with hatred and fanaticism, his calm tone and appearance of rationality often made them even more disturbing. Another notable intervention was delivered on October 16, 1944, during a conference in Budapest, Hungary. On this occasion, the Nazi leader urged local authorities to expedite the deportation of Hungarian Jews to concentration camps, using derogatory and pejorative language to refer to his victims. Eichmann was more of a calculating and efficient bureaucrat whose calm and seemingly rational voice allowed him to enact and disseminate his crimes with shocking coldness. His ability to justify horror made him one of the most dangerous and less known Nazi hierarchs in all of Adolf Hitler's political apparatus. Let's listen to his defense during the Nuremberg trials.
Im Hinblick auf Juden damals nur jene Obliegenheiten zu erfüllen, die mit der Auswanderung zusammenhingen. Deswegen heißt die Bezeichnung des Referates auch Auswanderung und Räumung. Unter Auswanderung ist der jüdische Sektor zu verstehen gewesen und unter Räumung das Aufgabengebiet des damaligen Reichskommissars für die Festigung deutschen Volkstums, zu dem Himmler bestellt wurde, nämlich die Räumung der damals zum Reich neu gekommenen deutschen Ostgebiete von, wie es Hitler und Himmler befohlen hat, mit der Räumung der Juden und Polen aus diesen Gebieten.
As you just heard in Eichmann's case, it wasn't necessary to be a fervent speaker like Goebbels or the Führer himself to try to seduce different audiences. In this episode, we've explored the voices of the main Nazi leaders and their impact on the history of the 20th century. Through our research, we've discovered the captivating and charismatic characteristics of their speeches, as well as their power to influence their compatriots and control their emotions. Although some of them possessed impressive rhetorical skills, their true power lay in their ability to exploit people's fears and prejudices, using propaganda and distortion of truth to achieve their sinister goals. By better understanding the power of words and how it was used by the leaders of the Reich, we can be alert to the dangers of manipulation and demagoguery today. Let's always remember the importance of questioning and critically analyzing the information we receive, and let's resist being swayed by speeches of hatred and segregationism. We're reaching the end of this tragic installment, but before we finish, we wanted to ask you, do you think the voices and oratorical characteristics of the Nazi hierarchs had anything to do with the success in persuading the German people? We look forward to reading your valuable comments and appreciate your participation. Thank you for sticking with us until the end, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episodes of Military History.